We have the best DJ. Do we not have the best music at Glover U? I swear, it's always so good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Before we get started, I want to ask everybody to take a moment. I see some comments already. Post below what area, what market you're servicing, and then what your role is in real estate. And then while we're doing that, Amanda, if you want to go ahead and kind of kick us off and we can start with intros and everything, that would be fantastic.
I love it. Let's do it. All right, guys. If I've met you, then I'm so excited to see you and have you in this webinar with us. If I haven't met you, I'm Amanda Dahl. I split my time between Virginia Beach and Naples, Florida. And I wear a lot of different hats in the real estate space. I've been in about 12 and a half years. I've been through pretty much every role you could ever think of outside of a broker owner. And currently, I wear a couple of different hats. So I'm a real estate coach on the bench for Glover U. I hold a roster of about 25 to 30 clients on average. So I get to see in all different kind of businesses throughout the country. And then I'm also the director of sales and growth. So I'm responsible for our sales team and our organization and driving production and helping really grow them and their goals within our world. And then I'm also responsible for recruiting. So I do a lot of that. And our team is based in, excuse me, Virginia Beach, and we do about 250 units a year. So that's who I am. It's good to have you guys with us.
Awesome. And for those of you that don't know, I'm Amanda Purnell. I am also a Glover U coach. I have been in the real estate industry for a little over 15 years. I started in new construction, and then when the market crashed, I went on to answering phones at the front desk of Coldwell Banker Schweitzer here in Michigan, and then joined a small team of one agent, one buyer agent, and myself. Grew that to a very large team here in Michigan. I have worked on a couple teams since then, including being the director of operations of Glover Agency. I've done every single role just like Amanda, including sales. I also own a property management company, so I wear both the hat of director of operations and also entrepreneur and sales. So I usually can see from both lenses, which is nice. Um, I now am a full-time coach. I have a bench of about 34 clients. I coach both sales, leaders, and operations. And I am also a mom of two. So my son Charlie is 8 and plays travel baseball and travel hockey. And my daughter Kelly is now 12 and is a competitive figure skater and a cheerleader. So without dialed in systems, none of this would be able to work. So that's why Amanda and I are here. I'm so happy to partner with you on presenting to you guys a operations admin business plan.
All right, this is exciting stuff. Now, Amanda, would you agree that most of the people that are on this call are probably sitting in some type of support role? Anything from C-suite execs in the organization to our executive assistants, maybe even some of our virtual assistants. And for that reason, we know that their personality profiles are more of that SC, right? Steady and dependable and careful and perfectly accurate. And so here's what I want to say. As we look through this document, I do not want perfection to overwhelm your brain. So if you're sitting on the other end of the screen as we go through some of these things and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have that number. Let me stop what I'm doing to go get it. Oh my gosh, I don't know that. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
This is the entire plan. And so we want you guys to have all the information in front of you. But regardless of where you're at in your business, what size your business is, or what role you serve in your business, we just want you to know that we wanted to put the information in front of you, but don't go crazy thinking you don't have it all figured out or together.
Yes, we like to say done is better than perfect.
Yes, yes, yes. And I know that's hard to tell this group, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right, so if we could pull that up on the screen, let's go ahead and jump right in. I think we're going till 3:30, right? So we've got an hour and
Yes.
a half.
Yep.
Awesome. So post your questions in the comments if you have any as we're going through this, and we've got someone keeping up with that so we can answer those. All right, so let's roll right through. So our 2026 admin business planning clinic. We've gotten through our introductions. You all know Jeff Glover, right? You all know all of the amazing things that you have available to you. Let me tell you this though, because I know we talk about these at our conferences. I know we talk about these at our tour stops, but I want you all to know all of the free resources you have available. So if you have, if you're a support professional on a team and maybe you're rainmakers in coaching or, they're the ones that are plugged into Glover U more, I want you guys to know what resources you have available to you. If you guys don't have the app, download the app. The Glover U app is so incredible. In addition to that, I told you I'm the director of sales. So for me, I drive script practice and role play every single day. So getting your hands on our scripts is another great resource. So here's just a screenshot, if you guys can see this, of all the different resources that are available to you. Make sure you're tapping in. And if you're not the one that's necessarily plugged into the coaching or meeting with someone every single week in our Glover University, make sure you get with that person that's on your team so that they can have those resources available to you, especially on the operations side. We've got database plans. We've got I'm trying to think of everything that's in our resource library. We've got tons of different things for you guys that you have access to. So make sure you plug into those.
Yeah, especially the morning message comes with the app. So if you
Oh,
download the
yes.
app, um, as a director of operations and not on the sales side, but still leading a team, one of the resources I really took advantage of was Jeff's morning message, because if you want to give rah-rah to your team and get your sales agents excited and really be able to follow along with what's going on in the market, just copy Jeff's message. It was an easy copy and paste for me.
I love it. I think, is it Makai asked, should we have this printed for this session? No, you don't have to. We're going to go through it here. You can feel free to pull it up on your screen as well and scroll through it with us. But print it afterwards. This isn't something that you're working alongside with us now. We want to take you through the process so that you understand it all, and then you guys will work on this later.
Yes, and the
Awesome.
best way to do that is to chunk it down into sections. Don't try and sit down and do it all at once. It's way too heavy of information that you're going to be filling out. So chunk it down into like 2 or 3 sections that you're going to do to complete the plan. So that way, by the end of the month, you have a whole plan complete and ready for next year.
I love it. All right, so let's jump into knowing your team sources. So, Amanda, do you want to lead with this, or do you want me to take it?
Sure.
Perfect. Go ahead.
So this is also in the agent business plan. So if your agent was on Jeff's business planning clinic the Monday of Thanksgiving, they got this page in their plan as well. Um, I included it in the admin business plan because we're usually the ones tracking sources. And if we're not, it's a really good idea to be tracking where all of our sources are coming from. So on this page, it's pretty simple, self-explanatory. You're going to total all the closings that you had from each of the individual sources. And then at the bottom, we're going to put what are our top 3 sources of where our business is coming from the agents on our team. And you'll hear Amanda and I talk a lot about teams, but this goes for if you're running a brokerage, if you're working for a solo agent. So forgive us on the terminology if we keep saying teams. It's just because that's what we currently work for. But it works if you're working with a solo agent, it's still really good to know what are their top 3 sources and what are some of the outlier sources that they're working with. And then we can go to the next page. This next one is ROI of your top sources. So once we figure out what our top sources are, the next key here is to really figure out what the return on investment is. Now, we also understand not every admin has access to the expenses. If you don't have access to them, fill in as much of this page as you can and then go to your team owner, your agent that you work for, go to the broker if you're working on the brokerage side, and get the annual expense that is spent on your top sources. So that way you can calculate what the return on investment is. And I know Amanda and I both have a couple stories on how doing this project really helped improve the ROI and the profitability of each of the teams that we worked on at the time. And the next couple pages go through how we analyze each of these ROIs. But we do have the calculation on there, the formula for you to be able to figure out and calculate what the ROI on each source is. So you'll see that little cheat formula right there on the screen. Charlie, somebody's asking if we can make the document larger on the screen. I don't know if that's possible. Okay, thanks.
Okay, cool.
He's working on it. But in the meantime, we can go to the next page. Amanda, I'll let you go ahead and tell your story on this.
Well, and I was going to say, Charlie also put in the chat the downloadable or the link to download it. So if you want to
Yes.
download it and put it up on your screen so that you can see it larger as we're scrolling through it, go ahead and do that as well, because I don't know that he can get that any bigger. Okay, So let's talk about ROI on some of these sources. So when I think about our top sources and what returns the most money for us, it's our database. And so we do a lot around our database, but we also spend a lot of money on our database. And if you are not analyzing that on a regular basis, and I see this a lot in agents' businesses across the country, where they're like, someone told me that I need to put a whole bunch of people in my sphere of influence, and then I need to touch them regularly. And that needs to be a minimum of 30 times or 40 times or 50 times a year. So that's what I'm doing. I'm hosting client events and I'm sending out mailers and I'm doing all these things. But if we're not tracking, are we actually getting business from those efforts versus what it's costing us? We could be literally entering into a situation where we're going to go bankrupt in our business. So tracking those individual things for us, it's something that we do on a quarterly basis. So what are the events that we did this quarter? What did it cost us? And how much business did we close from each one of those events? How many referrals did we get? How many people did we actually get into a relationship with? And how much was actually closed dollars to our bottom line? Because there is a difference between getting a lot of referrals from an event, but them not actually turning into closed dollars. So it's something that our team analyzes on a quarterly basis. And we identified that for us, the biggest return on our investment is our database. It's our sphere of influence and the people that are in that.
Yep. And we had a situation where when on a previous team we looked at this, we had a source, it was a paid source that we were spending money on. And while we had an ROI, it wasn't a very large one. And it took a lot of our operations team to run that source. So the next set of questions that we'll run you through will really help you analyze, is it a source that we should get rid of? In this case, our agents really loved the source. So if we got rid of it, we'd be disrupting their businesses and what they felt was a good source, even though the ROI wasn't really there for the team. Or we could double down on time, resources, or skills. So in that situation, we sat back and we analyzed it, and the skills just were not there to where the ROI was high enough. So we doubled down on our time and we spent a lot more time with skills. And we started analyzing the skills, really honing in on script practice with the agents on this one specific source, and let them know transparently if we can't double down on the skills that you guys have, then we're going to have to look at cutting back on this source, which we don't want to do. You don't want us to do. So let's dive into the skills. Let's audit our skills. And we were auditing the calls that they were making, re-listening to it in front of the whole team so that they could hear when people were doing things well and where we had room for improvement. And that really helped us to be able to improve that ROI. We also looked at how the leads were being routed and adjusted how they were being routed to the team so that way we had a higher answer rate as well. What we mean by skills specifically is a lot of scripting and role playing and what your presentation skills look like. So in this specific source, it came down to the scripting that they were using when they were answering the lead in the first place. Were they following the model that we had on the team of appointment, location, motivation? Or were they just, feeling out the person on the other end and I'll call you back, and they weren't landing the appointment right then and there? It also came down to the presentation skills once you're face to face with the potential client. So those are the skills that we were working on in that specific source. So
I would also add, oh,
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Go.
No, I was going to say, I would also add, and going back to my example, that's one of the things that we identified in our events. So by analyzing this on a quarterly basis and saying, if we know that our database tends to be our biggest return on a quarterly basis, what is that actually returning to us? And we obviously we're looking at the dollar perspective. How many dollars is it bringing back to our business? But there were some events that we were doing, by some definition, people would think are successful. Like if we invite 400 people to an event and 375 show up, someone might consider that a successful event, right? But we weren't closing business from some of these things. And what we identified by analyzing each one of the things that we were doing is in some cases, we just weren't asking enough times, who do you know? Or who do you know that has a real estate need? Or do you yourself have a real estate need? And we weren't creating those avenues to actually lead to closed dollars. So to Amanda's point, Sometimes you can have something that's working in one capacity, and we don't need to necessarily take it off the table. We just need to look at what we're doing inside of that thing that could help drive the results that we're looking for. So, just another example for you. Are we asking for referrals at the event or afterwards with a thank you for coming to? Quite honestly, we ask for them all the time. The time we are creating space where we're asking for them. And so I'll tell you, when I'm having conversations with people at our events, I might throw in a question like, and I'm curious, who do you know right now that might have a question about the market that I could be a resource for? That wasn't necessarily directing if they want to buy, sell, or invest, but I am creating the space. Or I'm curious, do you have any questions about the market? I mean, there's a lot that's been going on. I've had a lot of people in my sphere reaching out to me. And so, do you have anything that I could answer while we're here together? So we'll do raffles around referrals, and people that other people might know. We'll create space at our events where you can bring someone. Like that's part of our invite. If we do an event that's essentially open for the masses, we'll ask the question, who else do you know that we should know that you can bring to the event?
Yep.
So
And
we're
we'll give
creating
them
a
a
space
plus
for them to
one.
bring events. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. So there are a lot of different ways that you can do it. So we're asking during the event, we're asking before the event, we're asking after the event, we're all of it.
Yes. Awesome.
For me, did the screen disappear or are you seeing it?
Nope, it disappeared. Charlie, can we pull that back up? Step two, which is the ROI optimization. We give you guys some questions here. Yep, there you go. To kind of go through and help you answer the ROI questions. So, like, based on what's showing up as your best ROI, like we talked about, what could you double down on that is time, resources, and or skills for each source? Based on your least performing ROI, what expense needs to be re-evaluated? So either we can reallocate those funds, or again, we can double down on time, resources, and skills. And then what is the plan or process to either eliminate that expense or reinvest it into a higher ROI? If we reinvest it into a higher ROI, again, then what are we doing with time, resources, and skills of that higher ROI? So that way, those increased resources are also then leading to either maintaining that ROI or increasing the ROI of the higher source. And then setting some goals around the profitability and ROI of the top three sources. So if we're at a 4% ROI right now in our number one source, what is the goal for next year? And what are the things that we're going to do to get to that percentage? And then the last one on here is what is our profitability and our ROI goals in regards to our bottom three resources or sources? So those questions will help you kind of reevaluate what our ROI is looking like and how to make it better for next year.
And things like doubling down, remember, sometimes it can be a system, sometimes it can be a skill set, sometimes it can be a person. And that's one
Mhm.
thing that we identified. Like our database was really returning on a lot of the things that we were doing, but there was opportunity for us to also improve that. And quite honestly, Jeff just came to Virginia Beach for the 13 Ways tour. So I took a bunch of my team members and we sat through it. And we were calculating what was a return on our database. And I thought we were doing really good. And then I did the math and I was like, well, we're getting great stuff from our database, but we have a massive opportunity to improve it. So I took it back to our leadership meeting. And one of the things that we're realizing is we need someone that's dedicated to, we're at a level now where we need someone who is dedicated to calling through those people and touching them on a regular basis. Because for a while, it was just agents call your VIPs. And then our director of operations would call through the Teams database. But now we're at such a place where we actually need to bring on another person who is solely focused to getting through those touches with those people as it pertains to phone calls, particularly. And so that's just one example of a resource that we now need to bring in order to maximize our efforts on that particular source.
Yep, which will also double down on the time being spent with them and the skills because that person will be more skilled in having those phone calls than anybody else. That's
Yep,
awesome.
yep. All right, next page.
So before we tackle this one, Amanda and I both very strongly believe in this with a passion. As an operations person, you have two clients. The client is our client, but the agents are also our client. Without them, we don't have a job. So that's why there's this section and it's before the client experience because without the agents, we don't have any clients. So the next step is the agent experience. So Amanda, if you want to dive in on this one, I'll let you dive in on this one.
So, what is your advertised value proposition to your agents? This is super important for you to understand. And I can tell you, our organization in Virginia Beach, we literally just take the playbook from Glover Agency and we implement it. There's no reason to recreate the wheel. And one thing that I've been really focused on in the last year for us is where once upon a time we were just looking for new agents or bringing new agents into our organization. Now we bring experienced agents into our organization, people who have already done real estate and done their own production. And so we had to get really clear on what our value proposition was to each one of those, because the value proposition that we had for newer agents who were inexperienced and didn't need essentially a lot of the more elevated things or leveled things, a producing agent looks at value differently. So getting very clear on what is the value that you bring to the people in your organization and why do agents join your team? I am very clear that it's because of the level of skill development that we have in our organization and how we can actually get them into production and exceeding their goals. Those are two big pieces of value that we constantly communicate across the board. So understanding your value proposition is super important. Number two is, what tools or systems do you have in place to support your value proposition? This one's huge. It's one thing to say, oh my gosh, we'll develop you and we have a training program and we have all these courses. And then they get into your world and it feels completely discombobulated. So what does that look like? When I tell you that we have an agent development coach, that's me. I actually develop you in your skills. And you see that through our script practicing and role playing that we do on a daily basis that I leave. I also run an hour of skill sharpening with my agents. So it's 1 hour a week that we do to develop skills within our organization for our agents. And then I also do one-on-one coaching and group coaching. So when I tell you that we do it, we actually have a system. And depending on the level that you are when you plug into our organization, that's where you fall into whatever our training calendar looks like. In addition to that, we have the COVA way of doing things. We believe our way is the best way in our market. And so we have a full curriculum built out in a Google Classroom that we can watch you in your pace. That's a system that people can plug into, do what they need to do, and we can make sure that they're meeting those benchmarks along the way. So don't just talk about the value proposition. Make sure you have the systems to back it up, because you bring someone into your world and you don't have those, they're going to discover that pretty quickly. Number three, for the values being offered, how are the agents showing up and utilizing them? This is a huge one, and I have a story behind this. I've built from the ground up or helped build from the ground up a few teams. And my first iteration of this, there was a time where I was like, we have the best tools available to our agents. I know we do. I went out and did the research. I made sure that they had all of the bells and whistles that our agents would need in order to succeed in our world. And there were still things that agents weren't using. And I couldn't put my thumb on why. I'm like, I don't understand. I'm doing the training. I'm giving them resources. We have one-page playbooks. We've got flowcharts. We've got all of the things, and they're still not using them. And the agents also couldn't tell me why they weren't using them. They just weren't using them. So, as I do in true Amanda Doll fashion, I went and sat in the room with them. I was like, you know what? I'm going to figure this out. So, one day I went and sat, and we called it the bullpen or the lead generation room, where all the agents were lead generating, because I couldn't figure out why they weren't getting the conversations that they were having on a regular basis into our CRM. Not only did they have their CRM on the computer, but they also had an application on their phone that they could literally do it from anywhere. But still, contacts and client information was not getting entered into the CRM so that we could keep up with it. So I was like, I don't know if they know why they're not using it. They're just not. So I went and I sat in the bullpen one day while they were lead generating. And I was like, I'm just going to observe. That's all I'm going to sit here and I'm going to observe. How do they take phone calls? Are most of them writing on a pen and paper? Or do they have the CRM pulled up on their computer and are they actually typing in it? At this time, I had a lot of people that were using a dialer. So I know the dialer was connecting to the CRM. And I sat and I sat and I sat and I sat. And then the first agent picked up his notepad and wrote it down. So when he got off that phone call, I was like, I'm curious, why did you write it on your notepad instead of put it in the CRM? And he's like, it's much easier. And I was like, well, what do you mean much easier? Like, it's right there in front of you. He's like, Amanda, the time it takes for me to get this information into the CRM and everything I need to be, I got to go through like 20 clicks. And I'm talking 2 or 3 hours a day on the phone. 20 clicks times 25 or 30 contacts, it's just too cumbersome for me. It's easier for me to write it down on a notepad. And I was like, aha, I discovered. But it wasn't that the CRM wasn't great. It was super robust. As a matter of fact, it was so great that they felt like it was too many clicks. Now, my operations brain couldn't possibly believe how they wouldn't love all the bells and whistles of the CRM because it tagged beautifully and the interface is wonderful. But for them, when they're having to do this contact after contact after contact, the amount of clicks that they're having to go through to get from Mojo to the thing, and then to add this and then to add that, it was literally slowing them down. So then from that point, I was like, all right, how do I get 15 clicks to 12? How do I get a 10-minute process to 4 or 5 minutes for the agent? And that became the way and how I create more efficient systems or how I make our systems more efficient. So I tell you that whole story because sometimes the agents don't know what to tell you. They're like, I don't know why I'm not using it. I just know it takes too long. And so for that reason, I just avoid it and I go back to pen and paper. And sometimes it will take you going and sitting in their environment and observing what it is they're doing to figure it out. So don't be above that because I learned a very, very, very important lesson in doing that. Number four, what is a value prop that the agents, oh, I already talked about that, not taking advantage of. Did I already say this one? What is a value
We
proposition?
kind of covered it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So number five, what value is missing and should be added in 2026? This is a great question for your agents. But again, I also like to do my own observation. I like to, just because they're telling me this thing, is it really showing up? Just because they think this is value, is it really going to be valuable to them? So I like to go 2 or 3 questions deep with the agent. So after we send out a survey and ask them all of this information, then I'll go 2 or 3 levels deep with them. Why is that important to you? And how do you feel like that's going to change your business? And if we were to implement it, tell me how you would utilize it on a daily basis. Because sometimes it just sounds good, but it's your job to dig and make sure that this is the right solution or the right next thing that you guys need to bring into the business.
Yep.
Is it
And
just
then
me or did it disappear again?
no, it disappeared, so we can
Okay.
talk. The second part of that question then is once you've figured out what's missing and what should be added, if anything, what system or tool will you need to support it? So, like we talked about earlier, if we are offering these value propositions, then we also need to have the tools and systems and sometimes people to support whatever we're adding in. So we can always add in a shiny new object, but if we don't have the support behind it, it's going to flop. Um,
Agreed.
the next question on there is what have you done to streamline the workflow for agents? So that similarly goes into what you were talking about, Amanda, as far as sitting in there with them, figuring out what in their workflow is not working for them. And I see somebody else commented below that they scan handwritten notes into each file. So if the agents aren't going to put it in the CRM, sometimes it's as simple, and I've done this when I worked with a solo agent, just give me the chicken scratch all over the back of receipts and envelopes, and I'll put it into the CRM. So that way I have the updates and the notes when I go to print your call list for the next week. So what have you done recently to streamline the workflow for your agents?
Mm.
This is a really good one, especially with AI coming into the mix, to really take a look at what the workflow is and how you can utilize AI to maybe streamline some of the workflow. What tools or systems have you introduced that help agents manage their clients or time more effectively? What new strategies will you implement to enhance agent productivity? So these
And
questions all kind of go hand in hand. Go ahead.
and just to touch on that, Amanda, I was going to say, like, nothing is too simple. I mean,
Mhm.
because I've been on both sides, right? I've been on the operations side and now I'm on the sales side. And so I have literally experienced from both seats. And it's so funny. I said I was never going to say this publicly, but I guess I'm going to share it with you all because I am a very transparent person. Now being on the sales side for the last year and like truly infiltrated in sales, I'm like, I see why the agents don't want to put the numbers in. When we've got so many things to manage and we're on the and
Mhm.
someone's calling us and we called this client at, 2 o'clock in the afternoon and they're calling us back at 8 o'clock in the morning and we're in the middle of doing something, but we got to stop it right there. Like, no wonder they're just trying to keep their head above water. And so I say that because sometimes it could be something as simple as just helping them figure out how they manage stuff on the road. Like so many times I would have an agent come back to me and be like, oh my gosh, I left that on the piece of paper on my desk. And I'm like, cool, let's build a new habit. What if we started using the notes feature in our phone? So you always have your phone with you. That's never going anywhere. So what if we started taking notes there? Or what if when you got off the phone with a client, you did a voice recording and then you saved that recording so that when you got back to your desk, like these are simple things that will help them streamline what it is they're doing so that they don't feel like they are losing their minds just trying to keep everything together and juggle it. So don't think any one thing is too small. Like think through every step that they have to go through. Observe. And if you're like Amanda, well, I don't know every step that they have to go to, I would highly recommend you go shadow an agent. I went and sat in the bullpen. Go shadow them on an appointment. Go shadow them on in lead generation. Go shadow them so that you can live in the life of an agent for a day and see where you can add value because your operations brain works a lot different than their sales brain.
Yeah.
I
One of
wanted
the
to go back.
simple things
Oh, go
we
ahead.
did too, the same thing like what you're talking about is we had forms that the agents needed to fill out. And they were online that they could fill them out online, but as soon as I took that little link and I saved it to their home screen on their phone, all of a sudden they were able to fill out the form. But with it being on their computer, saved on their desktop, they couldn't figure out how to fill it out because they're not in front of the computer all the time. But the second I put it on their home screen, now all of a sudden I'm getting the forms filled out. So they can
Yep.
be simple little things, but I encourage you to think, how can you implement things to enhance agent productivity?
Yeah, I could tell you 100 stories that way. Our logging their lead gen every day. I just took the link and I created a reoccurring calendar invite on their calendar.
Mhm.
So now it pops up on their calendar and they click the link right from their phone and they can fill out their lead gen. So something so simple makes their life a lot easier. I did
Yes.
want to go back to Brenda's question in the comments because this is a
Yes.
lesson I learned early on as an administrator.
I love this
I
question.
realized, yeah, right. How do we get the agents to use the playbooks, or quite frankly, to use any of the resources that we give them? Early on, I was pegged as the yes girl. Anytime someone had a question, anytime someone needed something, Amanda would say yes. I always had the answer. And quite honestly, as a support professional early on in my career, I prided myself on that. Like, I'm the person everyone comes to. Nothing could get done in this organization without me because I know everything. And I thought that was my value. And then I realized that it was literally my ceiling. It's what was capping me. My whole day eventually, I mean, we grew from 2 to 30. We grew from, 25 units to 325 units. And I could literally spend an entire day just answering questions. So
Mhm.
what I realized is I taught the agents how to treat me. Anytime they needed anything, Amanda was it. Go knock on Amanda's door. Amanda will tell you. And so I knew I had to retrain them. So I think first step is asking yourself, what's my DNA in this? Why aren't they using the playbooks? Is it because every time I tell them to use the playbooks and they don't, I just do it for them? Is it because I've trained them that if they don't do it, it's going to be okay? No one's going to care anyway. So go back to what's my DNA on it first. And then we got to work on retraining them how to teach you. So anytime an agent would come to me after that, I'd be like, you know what, Sarah, that is such a great question. And if you had to guess where you would go to find the answer, where do you think you could start? Probably in the onboarding binder you gave me. Great answer. Why don't you go search the onboarding binder? And if you find the answer, great. If not, come back to me. Or,
Mhm.
hey, Amanda, how do I do da 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 da? Ah, where do you think you could find that playbook? Well, I could find it in the Google Drive. Awesome. So go take a look. If you can't find it, let me know. Otherwise, your answer is there. And now I will tell you, it took a minute to retrain them because I had trained them to come ask me all the questions. But eventually, I would get knocks on my door and they'd be like, Amanda, I swear, I already checked the Google Drive. I looked at the playbook and I cannot find the answer. And I'm like, okay, now you may enter because you've exhausted all your resources. As a leader, and you all are leaders in your organization, it is your job to teach people how to think and be resourceful. And so for me, there was a resource and there was a place they could go, and I just had to redirect them and remind them. So it does take some time and some patience because you're going to get frustrated. But if you do it the right way, you're eventually going to train them to go to that playbook.
Perfect. I love it. And you're right. I think a lot of times we all end up in that situation and have to learn the hard way. I have done that the same when I started out, where I was the resource. I was on call 24/7. Didn't matter if I was on vacation or on my honeymoon, I was the resource, And so eventually you're going to hit a level of burnout. And then the agents are getting frustrated because all of a sudden now you don't want to answer their question at 3 in the morning, but you've done it for the last 3 years. So what's changed? So you do have to retrain them how to teach you. And something that Amanda and I both say often is if the answer is not ask Amanda, then there needs to be a playbook around it so that we can give them a
Yes.
resource to go to. And it's very rare that the answer is actually ask Amanda.
Yeah. But if it is, you have to take response. And that's
Yes.
also the second lesson that I learned in this. If I couldn't point them to a resource, then I'll show you one time. But you can bet your bottom that while I'm showing you, I'm going to record myself and I'm going to put it in the resource library so that no one ever has to come back and ask me that question. So I would take ownership if there was no playbook,
Yes.
but I was creating a playbook as I was training you because no one was going to come back and ask me that question again. It's a good point.
Yes. Awesome.
Brandon, what CRM do you recommend for a team? So here's the challenge. I would need to know more information about your organization, quite honestly, because I would say there's so many great choices out there. And it would just depend on what are the things that you guys want though? Like what's important to you? Do you want an easy user interface? Do you want something that connects to a dialer automatically? Do you want something that has checklists and smart plans and all? Like there are different ones at any level. So I would say they're going to throw our contact information up at the end. So if you want to shoot me an email and let me know what things are important to you, I can probably point you in some direction. But without knowing more of that information, I could give you the name of 20 that would work really well for you. The simple answer is the one that you guys are going to use. So I would focus on the things that are most important to you and your organization and what it is you want to accomplish, and then go set up demos with companies that offer those things and find the one that works best for you. But feel free to contact me and I can work through that with you.
Awesome.
Okay. Next one, Charlie, if we can, please. All right,
Okay.
on to client experience, Amanda. I'll let
Yes.
you take the lead on this one.
Okay. So when we're talking about the client experience, this one's a little more subjective, but what have you done to improve the client experience over the past year? What tools or systems have you introduced that help improve the client experience? Again, this doesn't have to be a huge change. It can be something small. One of the things that we implemented at one of the previous places that I recently worked at was after every closing, we emailed the clients a copy of the closing package. They had a copy from the closing, and the title companies were emailing them a copy as well, but it was getting lost in the shuffle of everything that they had going on the day of closing. So 3 days after closing, it was a task for us to email them a copy of the closing package. Just so that way it was separated from all the chaos of the day. And that way they had it handy for them. So think about different tools or systems that you've introduced that have helped improve the client experience.
On that note, too, I'll tell you, and I learned this from Taylor Kerrigan, and this is one simple. It's actually this is one of my favorite lessons I've ever learned, honestly, because it was like such a duh aha moment. She said there is a difference in responding and acknowledging.
Mhm.
And I think so many times we think that when somebody puts something on our desk, whether it be one of our two clients, by the way, I know we're talking about the client experience, but this could be agents too, that we have to jump immediately. And there's a lot of reasons why we do that, right? Some of you all would agree with me when I say that's how my brain works, because if I get it done right now, I don't have to worry about forgetting it. So if it takes less than 25 seconds, I'm just going to do it right now. The challenge with that, though, is when you get multiple things hitting you, whether they're from clients or agents that are 25 or 30 or 50 seconds, it can bog down a lot of your day. So Taylor taught me that there is a difference between responding and acknowledging. Now, when somebody reaches out to you, and we did this for the client experience, our agents were like, man, it just feels like every time a client reaches out, they expect that we get on whatever they're doing right away. Like we have to respond. And I was like, you just need to acknowledge. Because think about when you're on the other end of a client experience, when you are the client, when you reach out. So, for example, you got double charged on your cell phone bill, or you sit down at a restaurant and you're waiting for your server to come over. The hostess walks you to the table and then she's like, your server will be right with you. And then nobody comes over. Are you not in the restaurant like this back and forth? Because you don't know who's coming over and you don't know when. But if someone was to approach the table and say, thank you so much for your patience, we're a little bit understaffed right now. So we're going to have John just finish serving that table and then he'll be right over to greet you. All of a sudden, this level of calm comes over you because someone's explained to you what you can expect next. Acknowledging. right? Didn't necessarily need to respond, but acknowledged. And so Taylor taught me that when a text message comes in, you can acknowledge that you received it and then let the individual know when you will be responding. I learned this in my email text, in my email, and my text message, and my voicemail. So if you were to call my cell phone number right now and you were to get my voicemail, it would tell you I'm either on the other line or away from the phone. I will be returning phone calls between 2 and 3 o'clock and emails between 11 and 12. So now you know if you called me when you can expect a response back from me. So I acknowledge that you called and I let you know when you were going to get a response. And this really helped our client experience because everyone feels like they have a something that's on fire. Really, they don't though. But if they don't know when you're going to call them back and you haven't acknowledged it, they feel like, well, I need to call again. I need to text them. Maybe they didn't get my voicemail. Maybe I need to see what's happening. So acknowledge versus responding is a huge lesson we learned in the client experience.
Yep. We actually created a priority scale that I use in my coaching with a lot of my operations people. And so it's a PDF that you can actually share with the agents on your team. And or even the solo agent that you're working for that basically says if they come into you and say, "Hey, Amanda, I need you to do this right away." It's awesome on a scale of 1 to 5, and I pull out the sheet on the priority scale. What level is it? If it's a 1, it requires immediate attention. Drop everything. I don't care if you're in the middle of listing a house, do it right now. Um, Level 2 is it needs to be done within 1 to 3 hours. A level 3, just at some point by the end of the day, which is awesome. I can fit it into my time block somewhere else. Level 4, I just need it by the end of the week, in which you'll find a lot of things are usually a 3 or a 4, and we assign them a 1. So we drop what we're doing and we disrupt our time block for the day when we really don't need to.
Yeah.
Or a level 5, which is just our put it on the back burner. It's a project for later. So that scale also comes in really handy to share with your agents that you're working with as well, just to be able to prioritize. Because as admins, again, as a yes person, we want to do everything for them right away. And that's not their intent either. But then we feel like we're not able to ever make any progress or get done what we needed to get done for the day because there's always these interruptions, but they're interruptions that we're creating.
Yeah.
So awesome. What tools or systems have you introduced to help improve the client experience is what we just kind of covered. And then what new strategies will you implement to enhance the client experience and increase reviews and referrals? So again, part of the reason why we created this admin business plan is as admins, it's really hard for us to set goals, especially when agents are setting goals and it's, okay, I'm going to do 50 units. I'm going to do this much GCI, this much volume. I'm going to make this many dials a day. Like it's very numerical and it's easy for them to set smart goals. It's very hard as operations people to set smart goals that are specific and measurable. So part of that was why we developed this because our goals are more subjective. And there are a few areas that we can measure. And one of those is by client reviews and referrals. So that's why that's a big part of this section for client experiences. On the next page is how many past client reviews were received in 2025, and then what's our goal for 2026. Now,
Mhm.
that may not be a number, it may be a percentage. So we can't have total control of how many closings. So if we had 200 reviews this year, I can't necessarily say we're going to have 300 next year if we only close 250. However, what I can control is 80% of our closings are going to leave us a review.
Yes.
So figuring out what those percentages are and then setting a goal for next year, that gives you something specific and measurable to attain.
Yes.
And then same with referrals, whether those are past client referrals from you reaching out to the database or your own sphere of referrals. And I will address this one right now as an admin. We all want to think that we don't know anybody and nobody's going to use us because we're just an executive assistant or an admin assistant. I'm just in the operations side. Just get over yourself. Seriously. As soon as I finally got over myself, the first year I decided to get over myself, I had 30 closings as an admin.
Yes.
Like, just get over yourself. Your friends and family want to support you. They just don't know
Yes.
how unless you let them know how. So once you step out of your own way it will happen. And you better believe that was a pretty nice bonus that I got that year for having that many closings. So
Yes.
it's definitely something to take a look at and set a goal around.
Another point to that too, Amanda, is let's just play devil's advocate, that they did ask their friends and family and they didn't necessarily want to support them. Go out and meet new people.
Yes.
I know it's hard for us because we sit behind the scenes and most of us are not very social and most of us like to be the face that's behind the scene that nobody gets to see. But go out and talk to people. You can talk to people just like anyone else does. Like Amanda, what a great opportunity that you have because your kids, good Lord, they're like Olympic athletes, all of them. It's pretty insane. But like she gets an opportunity to sit at these
Yeah.
games and these practices and talk to other parents. And it's a great opportunity for her to talk to people and express what she does. And you know what's very interesting because I started on the administrative side as well. Most people don't understand a real estate team. They just
Mhm.
think there are people who have their real estate license who help you buy or sell. They think in terms of an individual agent. Most consumers do not know that there are big real estate teams out there that have this whole engine behind them driving the client experience. So when I used to introduce myself, I was a director of operations at the time. So people be like, "Oh, what do you do?" I run a multi-million-dollar real estate team. That got someone's attention real quick, and they're like, "What does
Yeah.
that mean?" I'm like, "Well, did you know there's a thing as such thing as a real estate team?" It's a lot of people who help the client experience because there's so many moving parts, and it was an opportunity to share with people what I did, but to educate them. And they're like, "That's so awesome." Well, the next time I have a real estate need, I'm definitely calling you guys. You seem like you got it dialed in. So, what an opportunity for
Mhm.
you to go out and meet new people and explain what it is that you do.
Yes. And your people on social media are following you, but they're also then noticing the things on the team that you're sharing. So they're going to ask about the team. Uh, and again, when I got out of my own way, I plugged my database into the database plan of the team. So they started getting invited to client events. They were getting the database plans and getting loved on. And all of a sudden, my phone started ringing and
Yeah.
everybody was looking to buy or sell. I just had to get out of my own way and get out of my own head. So I just want to let you guys know, like, as soon as you get out of your own way, you very easily can get into developing your own sphere of influence in your own business, even on the operation side.
Yeah.
Awesome. Next section, team leadership and development success tracking. So this is a fun one. So this is primarily, if you're running an operations team or you have people that report to you, this could be VAs, it could be admin. If you're running on the brokerage side, it could be your person working at the front desk, your operations support. So if you have any operations people reporting to you, or like Amanda is a director of sales, she still can utilize a lot of this information as well. How often are you having your one-on-ones with your admins? And do you have an agenda for them? If you don't have an agenda, now's a great time to create one.
They
Uh,
appreciate it.
yes,
They
they
like
do.
structure.
Yes. So there's a couple things around that. And if you're working for a solo agent, then this is one of those opportunities for you to go to that agent and say, we need to be having regular one-on-ones. Here's what the agenda is going to look like. They'll gladly do it. They just don't know how to do it or what the agenda should look like. The agenda for our one-on-ones is pretty simple. There's time for us to have the how are you doing, make me feel important, comes first. Then it's what have you done to improve the agent experience? What have you done to improve the client experience? And what further support or training do you need from me in order to do your job? Those are the three things that we ask every week or every other week, depending on how often you're doing your one-on-ones. What does your training calendar look like for your admins? When I was working on Jeff's team, we had a pretty large admin team. And when I came in as the director of operations, they were all new. Every single one of them had been there probably less than 2 months. And so I realized really quickly that we were definitely in need of training. Everybody knew how to do their jobs, but we weren't working cohesively. So once we did training every single Thursday, that was my opportunity to do quality control. If I was hearing one person answer something one way and another answer it the other way, that was time to do quality control and training. And it was also the perfect time for us to start doing cross training. Because if somebody was
Mm.
going on vacation, I wasn't about to be the one to pick up their job full time while they were gone because there were other people that could help. And I already have a full-time job. What new strategies will you implement to enhance admin one-on-ones? And what new strategies will you implement to enhance admin trainings? So
I
again,
want to, oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was going to say it started with actual training because everybody was new. And then to enhance it, we started doing cross training. So that took some of the pressure off of me too. It was, hey, Amanda, you cover doing five-star reviews. I'm going to have you this Thursday train on what that looks like because I know you have a vacation coming up between Christmas and New Year's. And I'm going to have this person over here cover for you on that task. So I'm going to have you run the training and then I want you to meet with them afterwards and make sure that they're really up to speed on it.
Yeah. You know what else this is a really good opportunity for? And I learned this is it's an opportunity to also see what your gaps are. Because how many times have you created a system and then you get in the habit of doing it every day? So much so, and listen, we're all guilty of it, where it's like we don't necessarily follow the checklist anymore because it's so ingrained in our head. But sometimes we should go back to the playbook or the checklist because we've been doing it away for so long. And when we train on it, we're like, oh my gosh. I actually haven't been doing that thing. I'm glad we pulled it back out to do this
Yeah.
training because I realize I've been missing that step all along. So it's a good time for you to also evaluate like what things you could potentially be missing in that system. I did
Yeah.
want to touch on very quickly going back to the one-on-ones, and this is something that I experienced. And I don't know, maybe it is an unspoken thing, but I just want to make sure that I clear the air with this. I was brought on to a guy who knew how to sell real, like he hired me as his executive assistant, and man, that guy knew how to sell real estate. But he had never led people before, and he was very transparent about that in our interview process. And so I think sometimes we can get confused with like, well, that's my boss, that's my rainmaker. Shouldn't he be the one creating the one-on-ones? Like, why should I be going to him telling him he needs to have a one-on-one with me? And
Yeah.
when you're that first hire or that first right hand director of operations, executive assistant, whatever it is, you are going to feel some of that. Part of the beauty in your role and what it is that you're doing is that you get to be a foundational piece in building what it is you guys are building, which is really cool. That also does mean, though, that you might have to come to the table with some things. And there were a lot of times I had to come to the table with, like, you should be holding me accountable more, or we should be having accountability meetings more. And what I've found in recruiting is that talented individuals, they do want to be held accountable, and they want to be held accountable in a structured manner. They want there to be an agenda. They want to know what goal they're working towards. They want to know whether they're winning or losing. What I had to realize in that example is that he had never led people before. So while his intentions were really good, I had come from the corporate world. So I had held people accountable almost my entire career. So I had to show him how to hold me accountable. And then we would enter into these meetings. So if you're one of those people where you're like, yeah, my person's not doing that, like, should I be the one to go to them? Absolutely. Help them build the structure to hold you accountable. It strengthens that relationship, but they don't always have all the answers. As a matter of fact, that's why they hired you, because you have a lot of the answers that they don't. So don't lose sight of that.
Yeah. And there's two books that go really well with that. One most of you probably already know, Rocket Fuel, which is a great one. But the other one that somebody, an early on mentor, gave me to read is called Managing Up, and it's by Roseanne Badowski. And she was the executive assistant to the CEO, Jack Welch of GE.
Mhm.
And it's really about how exactly what you just said. Yes, they manage me, they're my boss, but really they hired you to manage them.
Yes.
So it's really taking ownership of your role. And and just like I said, if they're not holding one-on-ones, then go back to them and say, hey, we need to be having one-on-ones and here's the agenda. They'll appreciate it. But a lot of times we haven't necessarily been verbally given ownership to do that. So sometimes you just have to take control and manage up.
Yep.
So awesome. Okay, the next section is personal development success tracking. So we already
This is
kind
a
of
good
covered
one.
some of this, with the SOI referrals. So how many did you bring into the team last year and what's the goal for this year? And then putting a plan into place on how you can achieve that. For me, it was putting them into the same database plan that the rest of the agents were using and letting an already proven system work on its own. Yes, the book titles are Rocket Fuel and Managing Up. The next one on here, and this is kind of a really deep, meaty question that's going to take a lot of time, so don't shoot me for this one. How do you define success in your role? It's a really tough question to answer as an operations person. It's easy for a salesperson to say they're successful when they hit their numbers, when they're in the top certain percentage of agents in the team or the brokerage, when they've earned awards. It's hard on the operations team to say, I'm successful because they hit their goal. Well, they might have hit their goal with or without you. How are you
Mm.
defining success within your role? So take some time and really dig deep on that. Do you have anything to add to that one, Amanda?
Honestly, I remember the first time I answered this question, my first initial thought was success in my role is if our agents are faster, better, and stronger. And
Hmm.
now I dial that back, right? On the surface level, that was my answer. How do I dial that back? How do I make them faster? Through systems and processes, making those more efficient and leveraging as much as I can in their place. So now I can dial that back. How do I make them better? Creating a robust training calendar that pours into their skill set and helps level them up. How do they get better conversion rates? How do they get more at bats with clients? How do they generate a better client experience for their clients? Right. So dial that back. And then stronger, right? Just stronger in general, stronger in the way that they're handling things, stronger in their time management. So by putting that surface level answer on a piece of paper and then dialing it back, what does it actually mean? It really helped me discover how I can be successful in my role to support them faster, better, stronger.
Yep. And part of that too doesn't necessarily always have to be success in the role. And we'll get to some, further in this personal development side. Part of that for me was defining success and being able to do everything I'm already doing at a high level and leaving at 5 o'clock. Training the agents to be able to know that after 5 o'clock, I'm not available.
Mm,
Again, I made that same mistake that Amanda did. I was on call 24/7 and then I had kids and then it didn't work so well. So part of defining success in that role for me was being able to do everything I already do at an extremely high level and be able to show up as the best mom possible and not be drained by the time I'm coming home.
mhm.
What is one area of your role that you'd like to make a bigger impact, and how will you define success in that area? So pretty similar to the previous question. Um, And if you've been in Jeff's world or in the Glover U world, you know that our mission is to impact the lives of millions. So that's where this question kind of comes from, is where in your role are you hoping to make a bigger impact? What measurable improvement do you want to achieve in your productivity or time management, and how will you track that over the year? So again,
Mm.
we're getting into the deeper, like non-number goal setting questions and still trying to define how we can say that we were successful in them, which is kind of hard to do.
Well, you gave some really good
Yeah.
examples. That last question, I want to have my job done by 5 and not be depleted. It's easy to measure that.
Yeah.
You set a
Yep.
time and you have a certain energy level. I love it. You can measure it.
Yes. The next section kind of goes with that is the skills gap analysis. So, what additional training or skills are needed to meet your goals for the next year? This is a great one. If you're leading an operations team, have every single one of them fill this out, because you will be surprised at the answers that you get back. Where you think somebody's really strong, they may not feel so confident in.
Mm.
Or maybe they are strong in it, but they want to get way better than what they actually are. And then outline a training and development plan around it. And then the next page is the org chart. So, what does your current organizational chart look like? What does your org chart need to look like next year in order to meet your team's goals? And what is the timeline for any changes? I've actually been working on this with a couple of my operations coaches right now, where the teams just went off site, did their annual goal setting, and they came back with their goals. And we sat down and looked at it and went, these goals are phenomenal. And with you being their only admin, how are we going to achieve all of this? what we discovered is there's a missing person. Sometimes that's a VA to help with behind the scenes data entry. Sometimes it's we have a whole entire, like now we need a TC. So it's really just defining, can we get where the team wants to go and where our leader wants to go next year with the people that we already have in place and not have a gap in customer experience or
And
agent experience.
typically, you guys are a big part of this, by the way. Like our
Mhm.
leaders, so I'm the director of sales. My counterpart is our director of operations, and we run a team of 20 people. We have two co-founders. One's the visionary, and one is she works on other businesses. So we really run the day-to-day organization, and they look at us for the org chart. They're like, hey, listen, for us to get to 360 next year, who do you guys need? So it's really her and I driving what that looks like. And
Mhm.
so if you're on this call and you're listening to this and you're like, well, Amanda, how would I know? Like, I know I won't be able to do it on my own, but how will I know? I would highly, highly recommend that you do an audit on the things that you're doing and the time that it's taking you. This is how I figured out who our next twos were. I audited my time for 2 weeks so I could see where I was spending the most time. At the time, I was the executive assistant. So I was wearing every hat. I was the listings manager. I was a transaction manager. I was the marketing manager. I was the garbage taker outer and the phone answerer. And I served as the executive assistant to our rainmaker. And so when we were looking at literally doubling our business the next year, I was like, "Oh my goodness, I you brought me on to help you build this organization and right now I'm stuck in the job tasks. I can't even focus on working on building out the organization with you." So I did a time audit and when I did, I found that I was spending about 20 to 25 hours a week just in listings management stuff because we were a listings heavy duo. And
Mhm.
so that I knew that was my next hire. If I can buy myself back 20 to 25 hours a week, and so I can go work on director of operations stuff, who needs to be my next who? Well, it needs to be a listings manager. And so every time we were at a place where we're like, okay, here's our goals for the next year, I would do another time audit. Where is Amanda spending the bulk of her time? And if I got that time back, who would I need to hire to take? So for me, I leveraged off roles and I hired a listings manager first. Then I hired a client care manager because I found myself, then I hired a transaction manager because that's where I was spending most of my time. And so for me, it was essentially different department people that allowed me to then continue to run fast, building the organization with him. But I always knew who my next who was because I would do an audit on where I was spending most of my time.
Yes. Yep. And part of that too is how uh, I took it a step further and I went through and I highlighted all the things I was doing, red, yellow, or green. So red were things that I really didn't enjoy doing. I didn't get any satisfaction out of it. I still did it because it was my job. Yellow, if you came to me tomorrow and said, "Hey, Amanda, you're no longer doing this," I'd go, "Okay, no problem." Or if you said it's still part of your job, I would have been, "Sure, no problem." I was indifferent. And the green were the things that like I would really lose a lot of steam if you took it away. Like I really get passion out of doing this. I love this part of my
Mm,
job. And a lot of the red, not all of them, but a lot of the red and a lot of the yellow and maybe one or two of the green would create a role for the next person. So it doesn't
I
always
love that.
necessarily have to be a listing coordinator or a TC.
Yeah,
On Jeff's team, we call them client care associates, and their role is a mixture of some listing tasks, some pending tasks, some just general office and agent help tasks. Um, so it really can just come down to what are the things that you don't enjoy doing. And then when you have the time audit next to it, if I take those things out, I can then figure out we actually don't need a full-time person. I need somebody for
mm,
20 hours a week. And these are the tasks that they're going to take off my plate, which allows me to do these things over here and get us to where we want to go next year. And that's what the org chart needs to look like.
I love the red, yellow, and green. I guess I didn't even really. I knew my passion it was continuing to build the organization. So I guess I knew that piece, and I didn't really love the. There were aspects, I guess, of listings management, but I just learned something new about you. I really like that exercise. That's a good one.
Yep.
Mary, your question, great question. And here's what I would tell you is that it's going to continue to be a pain point for you if you don't find the time to do it. So
Yes.
this was archaic, by the way. I can give you updated versions of this, but back then, this was 2015. I had a legal notepad. And so I had it next to me. And at that time, like I was still answering a desk phone. Like it was insane how archaic we were. Anyway, so I had a legal pad next to me. And so every time I would go to do something, I would just write down what time it was and what I was doing. So like 8:30 checking email. 9 o'clock, returning phone calls. 11 o'clock running CMAs for whatever, 12 o'clock checking email again, 1 o'clock, whatever, 2 o'clock got up for a potty break. Like literally, I would write down it was just a timestamp and it was just a blurb of what I was doing because there were a lot of reasons why I did this. First, I wanted to see how long it was taking me. And what I identified in this was I actually had time blocks that weren't sufficient for the thing I was doing. Like I was creating an hour time block to check my email. I really needed 2 hours and I needed one in the morning and one in the afternoon. So like
Mhm.
I would no wonder I was going over on my time block because an hour wasn't enough to check the emails that we were getting, which is also an opportunity that I discovered for a better system for emails as well. The second reason I was doing it is because I wanted to see how many times I was having to backtrack and do the same activity multiple times a day. Like I was checking email 2 to 3 times a day because the rate they were coming in. I was also returning phone calls at that rate too. But then I also wanted to see like how many times did I have to go back into that thing when it could just be one time block that I work on, but I didn't have it as a time block. So that was my second discovery. And then my third discovery, excuse me, was obviously how many of these things that I do actually in my role are dollar productive. So they actually make the business money versus how many things just have to get done and would be considered more busy work. So that report was able to tell me a lot. And it is tedious. It is not sexy. It is not fun. It is frustrating. And so here's how I did it. Because your next question might be, well, how did you remember to do it, Amanda? You get inundated with stuff. I had an alarm in my phone that went off every 15 minutes. Log your time, log your time. So if I ever was like, oh crap, I forgot to log my time, only 15 minutes had passed and I could go back and recall whatever it was I did.
Yeah.
Today, I would tell you create a note in your phone because your phone is always with you. And so, one of the things that would happen sometimes is I would leave my notepad at the office and I was still doing work after work. And I'm like, crap, now I don't have my log. So, I would create a note in your phone and literally just every day put the date stamp on it and then time. What am I doing? Time. What am I doing? And then I went back through that exercise and I was cool. I was like, cool, these are the things that are making the business money. These are the things that have to stay with me because for whatever reason they have to. These other things become the job description for someone else.
Which also allows you to really take a look and analyze, am I truly delegating everything to the rest of my operations team that I could be? Or is it still on my plate because I just haven't taken the time to train somebody? And you know what? It's just simpler if I just get it done and I've just been getting it done and I know how to do it best. So it's fine. I just won't give it to Amanda to do because I already know how to do it. And then we stay in that vicious cycle. At some point you have to delegate stuff off and the other admin that you're managing may not be fully being utilized to the extent and they can still put more on their plate. I do see a couple questions in here about auditing that. And the next couple pages do go over that. So we do kind of go through the other way that I've done it, similar to Amanda. I did it old school too, writing it out on a piece of paper. I also do daily time blocking. So the next page in the business plan is what does your current time block look like?
Mhm.
So again, writing out what you're doing every half an hour. And part of that is I learned this from Taylor Kerrigan too, is I do a daily time block. And next to it, I scratch out and write off if I was supposed to be answering emails and instead I had an agent in my office asking me questions, then I'm scratching off emails and I'm writing, I was talking to Amanda about this deal. So that way at the end of the week, I can go back and audit my time every week and see where am I getting tripped up? What am I not getting to? And what do I maybe need to adjust in my schedule? And that's where you can figure things out. Like for me, it was I needed to have office hours for the agents to come and ask me questions because if I didn't, they were interrupting me all day long. If I had a half an hour, then they could either call, text me, or pop into my office in that half hour time block. And I was getting through a lot more of my day that way. So go through what does your current time block look like? And do this for like a week or two, like Amanda said. Really sit down. You have to slow down to speed up. If you don't take the time to slow down, it's just never going to work. We have to. And I know that's really hard as admins to slow down when we try to be so fast and efficient, but slow down, write out what you're doing. And then the next page is the new daily time block. So, especially if we need to bring on somebody new and we're leveling up our position, what does my new time block need to look like in order to get everything done in the new stuff that I'm taking on? If we're not growing the organization with people, the org chart, and it's just a matter of it's just me and the one agent I'm working for, and that's all it's going to be next year, that's fine too. Um, the new daily time block here then is all the things that we just went through in the first half of this business plan. What do we need to change in our daily time block for all those new agent experience systems, client experience systems? What do we need to adjust in our time block to hit all of that?
hmm I'll going back to the time audit, I'll tell you my rule of thumb is 2 weeks minimum. And I say that because sometimes you can have an off week. Like if you start this time audit the week before Christmas, chances are it's probably going to be a slow week. So I want to see 2 consistent weeks because over a 14-day period, you're going to see habitual things, you're going to see consistency throughout some of the things that you're doing. So for me, it's 2 weeks minimum. Do it for 3 weeks if you want, but 2 weeks
Yep.
minimum.
Yep. And then at the bottom here, there's a question too, just to kind of put a parameter around it. What new boundaries will you be putting in place to ensure you're working in the business in the morning and on the business in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting close to the end, I promise. Okay, the next page is the Unreal Life audit. Uh, this one I had to put in here. I couldn't do a business plan for operations and not put this in here. Um, Especially as a working mom, like I'm big on uh, making sure that you're taking care of yourself. Self-care has to be first and foremost. So we had to put this part in here. How do you feel about your current physical and mental health? What specific improvements can you make or would you like to make? How satisfied are you with your current financial situation and what specific goals would you like to achieve? How would you rate your personal and professional relationships? What changes or improvements do you want to make? And are you feeling fulfilled in your personal development and passions? What new skills, hobbies, or experiences do you want to pursue? So, this kind of walks you through all the different sections of your life. And there's an audit that I used to do on a previous team. It was called the Wheel of Life. And you ranked all the different areas of your life. And you usually ended up with a funky looking pork chop and not a round circle, which meant that we did not have a great balance in all the areas of our life, not just work, not just personal life, but family, spirituality, your finances, your friends, yourself. And then there was business and things like that. But making sure that we're well rounded in all of those areas. Now, one mistake that a lot of us tend to make is we make big goals in all of the different areas of our life so that we can try and make it not only round, but a really big circle. It's hard to make massive improvements in all areas of your life at one time.
What?
It's like saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week and I'm going to follow this really extreme diet at the same time. I'm going to read for 2 hours every day. I'm going to attend church. I'm going to do, like, you can't commit to all of those things all at once and also be improving in work and still maintain uh, a marriage or being a mom. Like, it's just not going to work. Something's going to have to give. Start small. If you can make your wheel small but round, then you have time to grow it. But first, we have to work on just making it well-rounded. So
Mm.
that's what I have to
This
say for
is
that part.
it. This has to be something that you guys make a
Yeah.
priority. And I know I operations people are so incredible. We are the support people. We have a passion for supporting people. So what does that mean? That means we tend to take a lot on our shoulders. It means we tend to want to be the best person. I mean, the yes person, excuse me. It means that we want to show up our best even when it absolutely is killing us. We want to be we're the support. We value ourselves in that way. I get it. So you have got to make sure that you do this piece right. And just like Amanda said, start small. But what I can tell you is there can be some overlap. I had a
Yes.
really, really, really great time on the operations side, and I made a lot of money on the operations side too. I would bring my Rainmaker ideas. I would create things for myself. Like, hey, listen, I have a goal of increasing our reviews by 80% in the next quarter. And if I do that, I would love to get a ticket to this conference where I can go learn. So it was a goal I set in motion for myself and the prize for me because while I'm not money's important, don't get me wrong, but I'm not motivated by money. I'm motivated by opportunity. I'm motivated by growth. I'm very learning based. So those types of things I would much rather get than an extra $100 in my paycheck or an extra 250 bonus. Doesn't mean money doesn't matter. It just means I'm not motivated by it. So I would go to him and I'd be like, look, I want to do this thing and I want to do it in the next 90 days. And if I do it, I would really love to go to this administrative conference. It's happening in Virginia. There's 200 admin going. If I meet my goal, will you send me there? And so then I was growing myself. I was also
Mhm.
getting that sense of community that I needed because where I was at, there weren't a lot of people back then in 2015 who were trying to grow what we're trying to grow. And so I didn't have a lot of admin I could mastermind with. There wasn't a mastermind in my market center. So I had to go outside of my circle to do that. But I say that because there were ways in which I could grow myself, I could create incentives, I could own my job, I could put metrics in place and be held accountable. And there's a lot of overlap there. So I was getting fulfilled in those ways that I needed and rewards that I needed and growing myself in that way as a person in my role, as a leader in our organization. But also, I was getting what I needed personally as well. So there can be some overlap there. Just know that.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. The next like three sections kind of all are very similar, so we can kind of cover those pretty quickly all together. But the next section is the database value proposition. This is really just laying out what you're going to do to cover the database every single month. I know on Jeff's team, we do a quarterly database plan. We've done it so many years now that even though we call it the quarterly database plan, we know what we're doing for the whole year already. So figuring out, what the themes are for each month, for February, we're doing a Valentine's Day box. It's going to be heart-shaped pizzas. So knowing what you're going to do and then figuring out, okay, are we mailing? Are we doing an infotaining email, a call, event, a combination of all of them every single month? So that way we don't have to come up with it every single month. It's already done the whole year ahead. And then again, measurable goals on the side. So when we talk database, how are we looking to grow the database? So how many people are in there now? How many people are we looking to add over the next year? And then constantly reminding the person that you're working for, okay, we said that our goal was to add 50 new people to the Sphere database. We're at 2 so far. So who else do you have in your phone that we haven't put in the CRM yet? Because we got to hit that goal. The next one is events and giveaways. This one, like I said, it's laid out very similarly. What events and giveaways are we doing? We don't have to do one every month, but I put every month on there because the months Amanda does an event are totally different than the months that I do events. So what are we doing during those months? What events and what is the budget? A lot of times we're
Mm.
told, hey, and I loved this one, Amanda, we're going to do a golf outing. Fantastic. I know nothing about golf. Um, but I'll figure it out and we will host a charity golf outing. I had no idea what a budget was supposed to be like for a golf outing. I didn't even realize how expensive golf was until I contacted the country club and got a bill for 25 grand for a golf outing and went, oh my goodness. Now I have to figure out how we're going to get sponsorships to cover this. What levels of sponsorships? I don't even know what you can sponsor. Now, the person I worked for, she golfed a lot. She helped me a lot with this. I really wasn't hung out to dry. But at the same point, she knew that you could sponsor holes and people would sponsor the breakfast. But now I had people sponsoring the golf carts, each golf cart. And she's like, no, you don't normally do that. I'm like, well, I do. I mean, you have me, I need to come up with 25,000 to cover just the golf, and then we have to have money to donate to the charity.
Yeah.
But it helps to know ahead of time when you're going into planning an event what your budget is that you're working with. I'm a big proponent on really trying to make sure that my budget is fully covered by sponsorships and that I have some room to be able to buy whatever kind of decorations I want to be able to buy for the venue. So when I'm figuring these things out, once I get the budget, then it's laying out what does the sponsorship levels need to look like. And I'm already thinking who I'm putting in which buckets of sponsorship levels. So that way I can make sure that everything is covered. But one of my goals, and it was just my personal goal, I'm very competitive. So I had set it out for myself was that we were not going to spend any money on client events for the year. It was all going to be covered by sponsors. Um, and then going into that, how many client events are we doing for the year? How many giveaways are we doing? What community events are we doing? And then I have on here the amount of money raised for charity. Not everybody ties a client event to charity. The previous team I was on, that was one of our main focuses is every event we did was tied to a charity. So we had a goal that every year we were going to be raising 75,000 for charity. And
Mm.
how much of that was coming from which events? Most of that came from the golf outing, but some of the other events that we were doing, we were doing toy donations for children's hospitals, uh, food drives for animal shelters. So it's not always necessarily money, but just having that focus of what is the goal around that. And then kind of analyzing what was the best event that you had this year and what could have made it better. Now, this is something that we house in our SOP for each event. After the event, we sit down and we have a leadership meeting on what are the things that went well and what is one area of improvement for next year. And then when I get ready to plan the event for the next year, I review all of those, what could have made it better, and figure out what we can actually implement and what really doesn't make sense anymore.
Mhm. Very similarly. So, our goal is to have everything planned out by the end of October because that gives us November and the rest of December to go then chase sponsorships. I want our sponsors locked in before the end of the year with no questions. And we do a one page, like they're committed. So, we have all of our events laid out. So, our team does an event or a giveaway every single month.
Yep.
So not an event every single month or a giveaway every single month, but an event or a giveaway every single month. And we open it up to our entire database and we even open it up to our community. We identify ourselves as a community-based real estate team. So we'll go door knock neighborhoods and invite them to our Easter bash, or we'll go door knock neighborhoods and we'll invite them to our fall festival, the bigger events that we do. But nonetheless, we have all of that locked in by the end of October so that I can spend November and December chasing our sponsors, or I shouldn't say chasing them, locking them in. And so I'll approach them and we have different tiers. So we've got our platinum, we've got our diamond, we've got our gold, and we've got our bronze. And so each tier provides different things. Some of them are exclusivity. So you're the only person that will occupy that seat for that event. And here's what it's going to cost you, and here's what you're going to get for it. What I have found is that when you approach a sponsor that way, they are a lot more willing to do business with you. And I did this. I surveyed sponsors, like different companies that were being asked for sponsorship. And they're like, one of the things that drives me nuts is when an agent comes to me at the last minute and they're like, I've got this event that's going to cost $4,000. You want to sponsor it? And I'm like, what am I getting for it? Why are you hitting me up 2 weeks before? I didn't budget for this. I really can't do it. I'm sorry. Where when you come to them with this type of approach, they can opt in for what they want. They know what they're getting for it. They know what they're expected or what's expected of them for the event. They're a lot more likely to lock in. And I have the same goal that you do. Get our events to zero, like zero to our bottom line, all of it
Yep.
sponsored.
And what I learned, in the middle of doing all of these events and sponsorships that I wish I knew up front was most of these companies have a budget already built in for sponsorships.
Yep.
So if you're not hitting them up in November, December for next year, it's going to be gone by March. So
Yep.
when that golf outing was coming around in June and July, a lot of times I'd go to people and they're like, sorry, we're already out of our budget. I'm like, what do you mean you're out of your budget? And I'm talking bigger companies too. Like we would go to Lowe's, Home Depot and get, things sponsored from them or donated. We would get a grill donated every year that we could raffle off. But if I didn't hit them up in January, it was gone. There was no budget left. So that's a good piece of advice too, is really lock in on this stuff in November, December. The next section is video and social media. Obviously, if we don't have this included in here, we all know you have to do video, you have to be doing social media these days. So really laying out what is the plan, how many days, what days are we posting, what content are we posting, what days of the week, and then when are we doing content creation as well, just kind of mapping that all out. The next page, similar to the previous two, this one is a farming plan. So if you're doing farming, hybrid farming, it's really mapping out again, what is the theme for every single month? What is our postcard? What is our mailer going to look like? What is our email if we have their email addresses? What phone call are we doing? What event are we doing? Um, we can tell our agents to call the database or call the farm every single month, but if we don't give them a script of what to say, it's probably not going to happen. Or it might, but it's not going to be as effective as it could be if we give them the actual script of what to say each month.
Yeah.
Okay, the last page, uh, and probably one of the best pages, I think, is the training calendar. This is really to lay out, again, a quarter at a time. What training are you providing to your team or your brokerage? Uh, really laying it out and looking how much time are we trying to ask them to commit to every single month for training. I see one of two things typically take place with a lot of teams that I've worked with is they either have such a robust training calendar that they're asking for far too much time out of the agents' days, and then the agents don't know what's the most important to attend, and so then they just don't show up to anything. Or we don't have enough training, and so they are trying to find it somewhere else. So really plugging in here what the training is going to be. When are we having our team meetings? So for Jeff's team, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we have a 10 a.m. 30-minute training, depending on their tier status. And then once a month, we have our team meeting offsite for 3 hours. So really kind of mapping out what that's going to look like and what the theme of each training is going to be. Not just that Monday we have training, but what are we covering on that first Monday? What are we covering on that second Monday?
And this includes training for both. So
Yep.
we tend to lead with the agent stuff, which is very important. We do, like, we call Tuesdays our team Tuesday. So for us, our team meeting happens from 10 to 11. My question was the same question that Taylor asked herself. If I'm going to be pulling the agents away from their business and production, what am I teaching them that will allow them to go back out there and get more business? If your team meetings or the things that are on your calendar are things that can be conveyed in an email, you've got to look at changing up that structure. You are pulling these people out of their businesses and out of what their primary tasks or jobs are. You better be delivering a lot of value. So we do Team Tuesday. So 10 to 11 is our team meeting. And directly from there, we parlay into skill sharpening. So it's 1 hour of developing their skill. And there is a cadence for the topics that we do for that. Then we do group coaching and we do one-on-ones. That all happens on Team Tuesday so that it, like, I'm asking them to come one day and they're spending a bulk of that day with us, but it's all very valuable stuff. And it's all production driven. When you look at our skill sharpening, it's helping them get into production. If it's on our administrative side, it's helping them do their job better. When you look at our group coaching, it is creating a space where they can do production based stuff or things that will drive results in their role in our organization. So make sure you are looking at that.
Yep.
Remember, if you're going to pull them away, it shouldn't be something that you can send in an email.
Yes. And by placing it all out a quarter at a time, it helps you to also know uh, when you need to be sending out reminders to them. The you can never over communicate with the agents on when they should be attending things. So having it all laid out so that way on our side, I know when I'm supposed to be reminding everybody, hey, it's Ultimate Prospecting Day on Wednesday, you should be there. I need to start reminding of them of that a week ahead of time. And then the other piece of training, and I'll have Charlie pop this up on the screen too, is take advantage of other trainings outside. You can't be a prophet in your own land. So one of the other things that we'll do is we'll live stream in the brokerage trainings from other companies. So tomorrow, Jeff has the virtual tour stop. That is something that you can register for and then live stream it for your entire team as a training. Again, it's probably not too different from what you're already telling your agents to do. This one's on 13 ways to take more listings, but when they hear it from somebody different, all of a sudden it's magic, even though you've been preaching the same thing to them all year long. So we'll post the link for how to register for this in the chat, but that is tomorrow from 9 to 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. And then I think the last page that we had on there is just a reminder that we have the summit coming up in January. I know that we have a lot of operations people on here. Please know that Amanda and I have been working very diligently with Jeff, and we are building out one more page down. We are building out a very robust schedule for operations. So there is a special operations session that takes place during an agent panel where all the operations people can come out of the main stage area and into a classroom, and we go over things like how we've just been going over this business plan. Amanda and I come up with content that is, we've gone over how to specifically do SOPs. One year we did go over the business plan because we didn't have the virtual business planning clinic. Um, but it's an actual class just for operations. And then we also have the operations breakouts every day. And then we do have an operations meetup where that's just more informal, where we get to just kind of chat and get to know each other and network and have people that we can pull on when we do need things. Hey, how are you doing? How are you getting your team to show up to trainings? Because they're not showing up to mine. We
Yeah.
can kind of have those kinds of questions and masterminds as well. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say, and we have the mastermind the very last
oh,
day.
yes.
The admin
Yep.
mastermind.
Yep, we also have the operations mastermind on the very last day, where we all come up with a list of things that we want to mastermind around, and then we vote and we pick the top topic that everybody wants to talk about, and Amanda and I run a mastermind around whatever you guys pick as the topic. So,
So, what is your homework? Your homework is to go back to your teams and your rainmakers and your brokerages and tell them that you have a goal. And that goal is to do X. And when you achieve that goal, you would like to come to the summit in January so you can hang out with us.
yes. Yep, and I think there's even a discount code on that last page there as well. So if you do register for the summit, uh, let me see. I think there was a discount code on that last page, Charlie. Yes. So if you go to register and you type in admin 100 as a promo code, you get $100 off of your ticket for attending the summit. Awesome. Does anybody have any questions before we let you go? I think we covered most of them.
That hour and a half went by pretty fast, Amanda.
I did. Yes. Yes, you will get a link for the recording. This is being recorded. So we will make sure that that gets shared with everybody. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so
Yes.
much for attending. We appreciate all of you and hope to see you guys in Phoenix in January.
Yes. Bye, guys.